What we really need are individuals to come to medicine with tremendous idealism that want to serve the public.
This is Dr. George Daly, the dean of the #1 ranked medical school, Harvard University. Today, you'll hear from admission committee members from some of the most competitive medical schools in the nation, including Boston University, the University of Colorado, and of course, Harvard. Harvard tells us why putting together a medical school is exactly like putting together an orchestra. University of Colorado will tell you that being unbalanced might be the best strategy for you. And Boston will tell you that they definitely can feel it when your application has a checkbox feel. There's no better advice to take than from the people who actually make decisions on your application.
All right, so why don't we start with Harvard University?
So I'm often asked, what is the perfect Harvard Medical School student? What are you really looking for? And the answer is it's not really any one thing.
We're looking for future leaders of American and international medicine, and how one defines leadership is really up to them.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're a pre-med, an answer like that can be kind of difficult and frustrating because you're not sure what to really hold on to. What does that actually mean? How to define leadership for yourself? Let's see if they expand.
You might have one person who's done just tons and tons of research, might have publications. Sometimes we have people who have PhDs, and you might have somebody else who's done no research at all. They've done all the prerequisites. They're very academically ready, but they focused more on perhaps community work.
And that part is extremely encouraging because now you can play your own game, be in your own lane. You don't have to do research, although I would personally recommend it as something for most premeds to do. But if you're world class at healthcare policy or community work, it seems like schools like Harvard Medical School take note of that.
We're looking for a very diverse class not just in terms of geography and ethnicity and gender, but we're also looking for a diverse class in terms of passion.
And this is the classic Harvard metaphor that you cannot build an orchestra with just cellists, right? You need your star researcher, you need your star community advocate, you need your star healthcare policy, star biotech person, and together you get this extremely well-rounded class with all diverse passions, interests, walks of life, ethnicities. And so they reiterate what we truly believe here at Premed Catalyst as well, is that your path to medical school should be very different from everyone else's because you should be world-class at your own thing. All right, so now let's move on to the Assistant Admissions Dean, Dr. Suhu of the University of Colorado.
This is what I love about medical school, Linda, is the backgrounds of who comes in the door are wildly divergent. And then everybody comes together with this shared goal of learning how to take care of people. And then everybody does, on the back end, does the opposite and goes out into the world and does all these different things.
I also think this is the beautiful thing of medicine, is that we all come together in these medical schools, all from different walks of life, different university, different struggles, different upbringings. We all want to become doctors, but then after medical school, after learning the exact same things for 2, 3, 4 years, one of us becomes a head and neck surgeon, another becomes an anesthesiologist, another doesn't perform clinical medicine and just writes books like Jurassic Park, like Dr. Michael Crichton, or another one becomes healthcare policy on Washington, D.C., working in legislation, and another just joins a biotech company and starts patenting the next pain modulator. That's the beautiful thing about medical school, is that everyone wants to help people and they will learn to do it in their own way.
We see applicants that are what I call sort of well-balanced, right? They've sort of done the normal checkbox things. They've got some clinical experience, some research experience, some leadership experience, some volunteer experience.
You can see that when he's talking about it, he's not very excited. They've done the checkbox things. They've done this, they've done that, they've done this. So you can kind of get a sense that he is not a big fan of this.
I also see applicants sometimes that are what I call well unbalanced, where they've really excelled in one particular area, whether it be, research or community service. And they've really thrown their whole selves into that.
And there again is kind of what Harvard was talking about, this well unbalanced phrase that Dr. Suhu is putting out there. I think is a good description, which is essentially you're world class, or you are a #1 competitor in your own lane, and you come to medical school and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm really good at, and this is what I can bring to the table of your learning community.
We also try and contextualize what people have done. So what have your opportunities been? Did you go to a really small college that doesn't have have a lot of research mentorship. Well, then I actually don't expect you to have as much research experience as someone that went to a top research institution. Did you work 2 jobs during college? Well, then you probably weren't the president of 5 different clubs.
And I also love how he contextualizes every student, right? He understands where you came from, what your upbringing was, who was mentoring you along the way. If you have 2 physician parents, they will understand medical school admissions more than my parents who sell clothes at Chinatown, right? Your application and your journey is a product of, yes, your interests, but your interests and a lot of things in your life are a context of the environment that you grew up in. So whether it's not going to a research heavy school or not growing up with parents who are doctors or not growing up in the most safe neighborhoods or vice versa, growing up in a heavily magnet science high school and things of this sort on the other end of the spectrum, you will have other sets of circumstances and context applied to your journey that I think Dr. Suhu is very aptly considering when he understands what you've been able to do with the resources that you've had.
I think what I look for is congruity, which is what you're telling me about yourself in your personal statement and why you want to be a physician, is that backed up in the things that you've done? Do those look like the same person to me?
I love how simple he makes this, right? Does your paper match the person in front of him? Does he like what he sees on paper? And when he meets you in an interview after contextualizing your life story and what he understands about your school, your upbringing, your parents, your job opportunities, your other commitments to life, does that person with all that maturity, all that authenticity, all that passion on that piece of paper, does that match the person that he meets on interview day? That congruity, or what we call incongruity or person-paper mismatch, is extremely important when you are trying to figure out if that person is going to be an asset to your medical school community. Because we don't admit pieces of paper. We don't admit applications. We admit pre-med people. All right, so now let's move on to Dr. Goodell of Boston University.
So people often ask me, I think the biggest question that applicants have is how can I mean, basically everybody wants to get in. How can I get in? And part of that is how can I make myself stand out? And then a subsidiary of that question is it better for me to do this or this activity? Or, how should I spend my time? And the most important thing is that you do what you are excited about, not what you think is going to look good. There's a whole set of applications where people have met all of the criteria. And when we read those applications, we say, what we often write in our notes is, this application has kind of a checkbox feel.
See, this is the 3rd admissions committee member in this video alone, 3 out of 3 who have said that they feel it when someone is just checking off the activities. And it feels like they've just played this game of do some research, do some volunteering, do some community service, and here you go, that should get me into medical school. And when I was a pre-med, I always thought, like, how do they tell if someone is truly just doing it for the checkboxes, and how can they tell if they're doing it because they genuinely are interested in so many different things? Let's see what she says.
But I also get it. I don't want to say, I feel bad saying that because, I understand poor applicants, they're just trying to follow the rules. I get it. So it's not that it's a bad thing to do, but I think what is the most important is that you do the thing that is really exciting to you, because most likely there's going to be some school that thinks that is amazing.
There it is right there. And that is exactly how a school tells if you are doing it authentically, passionately, genuine to your own interests, because they will have the exact same interests as you. In Boston University, she goes on to talk about social advocacy and social justice, which is something they're huge on. And so if I had an activity on my application that was social justice related, I know for a fact that it would not come across as authentic as my community work or my mentorship work or my education work, because I am more passionate about those things. And this is a great thing about medical school admissions nationwide, is that different schools have different interests. Stanford is trying to build a pod of biotech medical student geniuses. And Boston University is very interested in social justice, public policy, and making sure that legislation and community and culture all are intertwined when talking about medicine. And so just know, if you are passionate about something, there will be a school that is equally as passionate about you on that thing. And hopefully you can see eye to eye and figure out that that place is a good fit for you. And that is the best outcome any pre-med and any medical school can ever have. A pre-med who loves going to your school and a medical school who is begging for you to come. That is a match made in heaven. And to double back on something Dr. Goodell said earlier, I really love that she said she understands pre-meds are just trying to do their best to get in. And honestly, I think it's that level of empathy that makes her such a great admissions dean herself, being able to understand what pre-meds are going through. We can flip that ability, that superpower of hers, and try for us to understand medical schools, what they're going through and what they're looking for. So now to close this out, let's hear back to back from two deans, one from Harvard, one from Yale. It doesn't really get much better than that.
What we really need are individuals to come to medicine with tremendous idealism. They want to serve the public.
And now let's hear from Yale.
One of the things that I look for when we are selecting and recruiting students is resilience. And so a student who has come from a lower income family, who perhaps doesn't have, is perhaps his first gen and doesn't have the experience of a parent who went to college, and certainly not a parent who was in medicine, often has characteristics that I know will help them succeed, an ability to conquer adversity. So I'm very excited about that group of students.
So you heard it directly from Harvard and Yale deans respectively, that idealism and that resilience are two fundamental traits that they are looking for in medical students. The fact of the matter is that being pre-med is difficult, and being a medical student is even harder, and being a resident and eventually an attending is even harder than all of this. We will all grow to adapt, but we need to have demonstrated that ability to be resilient early on so we can convince medical schools that, hey, I've been through struggles myself, I can handle this, and I have the capability to grow and grow and grow and become more resilient over time. What I really love about the Harvard Dean's message is this beautiful idea of idealism, wanting to serve the public, having a soft heart for what people are going through, having huge ambitions to change healthcare and really affect the way America does healthcare. It takes thousands of idealistic, ambitious leaders and an overarching supportive community of fantastic team players to really make the difference that I, you, your parents, my parents all deserve when it comes to living their healthiest lives. I hope that you will also resonate with this motif and this metaphor of being the idealistic provider who holds their patient's hand by the bedside and spends as much time as they need to explain what is going on. I hope that image in your head is a beautiful one, because it takes that level of understanding of maturity and authenticity to really be a great modern doctor.
And if these AdCom interviews resonated with you, you can see how I put everything together into my own application. That video is here with my actual GPA, my actual MCAT, my actual personal statement, all available for you to learn from today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.